They clapped, they smiled, they walked away. Not when I won, but when I lost. You ever watch the same hands that lifted you clap as you hit the floor? You ever see the faces that praised you smirk while you bled? I did. I lived it. I remember. They cheered when I rose, but they roared when I fell, louder, deeper, hungrier, like they'd been waiting for it. Like my failure was their feast. Like watching me burn made their food taste better. I gave them everything, blood, breath, bones, and when I cracked, they called it entertainment. They toasted my downfall with the same glasses they raised in my name. Friends, lovers, leaders, all of them. Gone when it wasn't convenient to care. Silent when it wasn't safe to speak. Ghosts with perfect timing. They didn't betray me with knives. They betrayed me with applause. They clapped as I collapsed. They smiled as I shattered. They walked away as I begged the sky to swallow me whole. And the sickest part, they loved me more broken. Because broken meant quiet. Broken meant tame. Broken meant safe. They could love a version of me as long as it didn't rise too high, shine too bright or make them feel small in its shadow. But I dared to stand tall. And when I stumbled, they pounced. They fed on the fall, turned it into headlines, hashtags, and half-truths. They said I changed. They said I got too much, too loud, too bold, too real. No, I just stopped shrinking to fit their comfort zones, and for that, they lit their torches. They sharpened their lies. They called it concern, but it was fear, dressed up in fake empathy. Because when you stop begging to be accepted, you become dangerous. When you stop kneeling to their fragile egos, you become the villain in their bedtime stories. But I'll tell you something they'll never admit. They didn't break me with the fall. They broke me with the silence after. No one called, no one came, no one cared, and that silence, it didn't kill me. It raised me, it shaped me. It whispered things the crowd was too loud to hear. Let it hurt. Let it scar. Let it build. Because pain and pain makes architects of the broken. And I rebuilt, not softer, not sweeter, but sharper. So yes, and they cheered when I fell. Let them remember the version of me that begged to belong. Let them cling to the memory of a man who bent backward just to be seen. He's dead. And the one who rose in his place doesn't want applause, doesn't want love, doesn't need saving. I am not their hero. I am the consequence. And the funny thing about ashes, they remember fire, and I was never done burning. They forgot me. That's where it all begins, not with war, not with fire, but with silence. A silence so deep it made the world feel hollow. A silence that echoed louder than every scream I ever swallowed. They walked away and never looked back. I wasn't worth saving, not to them, not to anyone. And so I sank, slowly, deliberately, into the black. They'll tell you it was rage that changed me. But no, it was abandonment. It was watching the ones I bled for vanish, watching the lights go out in every window I once called home, listening to the phone ring and ring and ring, until I realized no one was coming. No one was ever coming. I laid in a coffin made of my own thoughts, buried alive beneath apathy and ash. I slept in the cold embrace of revenge. I fed on rust and memory. And I learned to breathe in the dark. Time didn't heal me. Time sharpened me. It turned my grief into knives, my sorrow into teeth, my silence into screams so loud they only existed in my skull. You ever been alone with nothing but yourself? It's not peaceful. It's not quiet. It's a war zone. Every mistake, every betrayal, every echo of laughter that wasn't for you, it all claws at you in the dark. And there, in that pit, I didn't find hope. I found something worse. I found clarity. The kind that burns, the kind that doesn't beg for rescue anymore. Because that's the thing no one tells you about being left behind. Eventually, you stop waiting. No one came. No one stayed. No one mattered. I stopped praying, stopped pretending, stopped explaining. Made peace with the monster I used to fight. And when I opened my eyes, he was all that was left. You want to know what happens when you leave someone in the dark for too long? They don't just survive, they adapt. I didn't come out softer, I didn't come out kinder, I didn't heal, I mutated. The boy they broke, he's dust now. What rose in his place? Something else, something inevitable. You think strength is loud? No, strength is silent. It's patient. It waits. And while they moved on, while they laughed, lived, loved without ever looking back, I was waiting. Every day, I carved myself sharper. Every night, I rehearsed my return in the mirror of my mind. And when you craft yourself in pain, long enough, you stop fearing it. They made me fear being alone until I realized alone is where the gods are made. I didn't climb out of that silence to be forgiven. I didn't come back for mercy. I didn't rise for them. I rose for me. For every second I was forgotten. For every breath I had to choke down in the dark. For every voice that didn't call. Every door that stayed shut. Every heart that beat for someone else, I became the silence. I became the cold. I became the thing that grows in the absence of love. You want to talk about monsters? They didn't build me. They left me. And the silence did the rest. The kind of silence that teaches you how to bite, how to crawl, how to endure, how to erase the pieces of you that begged. I stopped crying. I stopped asking. I started listening to the rage, to the hunger, to the part of me that had been screaming for years, and I listened and I obeyed. There's no redemption in this story, no apology, no soft ending. There's only transformation. And I'll tell you this, when you become the thing they fear, they'll pretend they never ignored you. They'll swear they tried to help. They'll rewrite every chapter they abandoned. But you'll know the truth. You'll remember the nights they don't, the silence they filled with absence, the cold they left you in. And when you finally rise, not begging, not broken, but sharpened, like vengeance, they'll say you changed, and maybe you did, but only because they didn't care enough to stop it. So no, I don't want peace. I don't want pity. I don't even want revenge. I want recognition. Not from them. From the fire in me they tried to snuff out. From the void that whispered, "You're not done yet." From the monster that raised me when no one else would. They had their chance. They had their time. Now it's mine, and I'm not coming back to be saved. I'm coming back to be seen, because I was made in silence, raised by it, trained in it. And the next time they hear my name, it won't be a whisper. It'll be a warning. No one came, no one stayed, no one mattered, and so I stopped trying to be human. You thought I was finished, didn't you? You thought that silence meant surrender, that the blood stopped flowing because the heart stopped beating. You mistook stillness for death. But death doesn't feel like this. Death doesn't burn. No, I wasn't gone. I was gathering, I was sharpening. I was becoming something you couldn't recognize anymore, because you didn't bury me deep enough. You left just enough air for me to breathe in my hatred. Just enough. Light for me to see what you did. Just enough space to claw my way back with nails, not mercy. They say time heals. That's a lie. Time doesn't heal. Time hides. Time rots. Time ferments the rage until it tastes like clarity, and I drank every bitter drop. You thought I was rebuilding. No, I wasn't putting myself back together. I was ripping myself apart. They stitched me wrong, so I tore myself open again. Every scar you gave me, I peeled it back, studied it, let it scream, because healing is for the hopeful. I wasn't hoping, I was preparing. Do you understand what you've done? You didn't break me. You reshaped me. You didn't bury me. You planted me. And now, you're watching something grow that no longer bleeds like you, no longer fears like you, no longer plays by your rules. I didn't come back to win. I came back to end the game. The scoreboard is burning, the referees are running, and your team? They're praying the final whistle never blows. But it's too late. The field is mine now. The rules are mine now. The end is mine now. You want to know what vengeance sounds like? It sounds like the breath I took when I woke up in the dirt, the one that tasted like ash and steel. It sounds like footsteps you forgot to hear behind you. It sounds like your name echoing in a place you thought I'd never reach. You want to know what wrath looks like? Look in my eyes. See that? That's not anger. That's certainty. I don't rage. I execute. You thought I wanted redemption? I don't want to be understood. I want to be remembered. Let them tell stories. Let them whisper warnings. Let them say, there was a day. He came back. And the world never stood the same again. You thought this was a comeback? No. This was the reversal. The undoing, the crash, the point where the hunted stops running and starts smiling. You should have buried me deeper, because now I'm walking out of that grave with the dirt still in my lungs and vengeance stitched into every step. I don't limp. I march. I don't bleed. I ignite. I don't forgive. I erase. You should have buried me deeper, because I've seen what's underneath now. I've seen the worms. I've seen the lies. I've seen the skeletons you hid behind closed doors while preaching purity. And I'm not afraid of your ghosts. I eat ghosts. The next time you hear my name, you won't hear it in a courtroom. You won't hear it in gossip. You'll hear it in war songs. You'll hear it in the breath people hold when they feel the storm coming. You'll hear it in the pause between lightning and thunder, because I wasn't reborn. I was reloaded. And now I don't aim to win. I aim to end. Let the cowards run. Let the liars hide. Let the kings kneel, because I'm not rising. I'm arriving. And everything you built, it trembles, it cracks, it knows. You should have buried me deeper. They thought I wanted to win. They thought I wanted closure. They thought I'd stop once the scales tipped. Balance, fairness, justice. What a joke. I didn't come for peace. I didn't come for recognition. I didn't come to play fair. I came to play final. You see, winning would have meant shaking hands, smiling for the cameras, letting them walk away with a lesson. But I wasn't sent here to teach. I was sent here to end, so I didn't win. I annihilated. I took everything they said I'd never touch. I rewrote every line they drew to keep me caged. I turned their systems into dust and made them watch. They called it excessive. They called it cruel. They whispered behind closed doors. He's too much. He's too far. He's too dangerous. Damn right. I didn't rise from the ashes just to gently knock. I came back swinging, with fire in my lungs and vengeance in my blood. I didn't just walk through their walls. I tore them down brick by pathetic brick. I didn't argue with their lies. I silenced them with truth too loud to deny. You should have seen their faces. When I entered the courtroom, not as the broken man they buried, but as the reckoning they created, their voices cracked, their eyes darted, their hands shook behind gold-trimmed tables. They weren't judging me. They were praying I wouldn't look at them. But I did. One by one. I locked eyes, held them, let them feel it. The weight of every word they spoke behind my back. The cost of every chain they forged to hold me down. The horror of realizing I remember everything, and I made sure they never forget, because I didn't just win. I overwhelmed, I dismantled, I unmade them. Every title they wore like armor. I stripped it. Every reputation they built on my bones. I shattered it. Every smug little throne they carved from corruption. I dragged it to the dirt and made them choke on the dust. And I smiled, not out of joy, but out of clarity. Because this was never about justice. It was about undoing the illusion. It was about breaking the lie they lived in and proving I could breathe just fine in the truth they feared. They always said I was dangerous, but they had no idea. Danger isn't loud. It's quiet, precise. I didn't scream when I struck. I didn't roar when I crushed. I let my silence speak for me. Because silence is what they gave me for years. Now it's their turn to listen. And oh, how they listened. To the verdicts that flipped. To the truths that spilled. To the walls that cracked under the weight of everything they buried. They listened, they watched, they fell one by one. And now they talk of mercy. Now they ask for limits. Now they plead for balance. Where was mercy when I begged for help? Where was balance when they held the blade and I took the fall? Where were limits when they dragged me into the fire and told me to smile? No. You don't get to rewrite the rules after you've been beaten by them. You don't get to cry foul when the storm you summoned finally hits you. You called me a problem. Now I'm the consequence. You wanted war. Now I am the battlefield. Let them whisper. Let them scream. Let them label me every name their fear can conjure. I won't answer to any of them because I didn't come to be understood. I didn't come to be accepted. I didn't come to make peace. I came to end bloodlines of corruption. I came to tear down legacies built on silence. I came to make sure they never rise again, and when the dust settled, when their stories burned, when their names vanished from the lips they once bought, I stood alone. Not a hero, not a villain, but something more, something they couldn't change, something they couldn't kill, something they'll never be able to stop. So no. This wasn't a win. It was a massacre, a message, a reminder that mercy was never in the script. Oh, now it's unfair, now it's too much. Now the voices that cheered when I was on my knees, I'd cry out for mercy. Where was all this justice when I was begging to breathe? Where were the rules? When you laughed while I choked, let me guess. It was funny then, it was deserved. It was just the game, but now it's different. Now that I'm the one standing, now that the fire's in my hands, suddenly there's a problem. Suddenly I've gone too far, too cruel, too ruthless, too dangerous. No, I'm not too dangerous. I'm just not broken anymore. And that's what terrifies you. You called it overkill. I call it remembering every time you smiled at my suffering. You called it unjust. I call it justice with a memory. You want to talk fairness? Where was that word when I was being torn apart from the inside while the world watched like it was theater? Oh, right. Back then I was just a punchline, a loser, a failure, the cautionary tale. But the second I stopped playing victim, the second I stopped asking for a seat and build my own throne, that's when the sirens start. That's when the rules suddenly matter. He's too aggressive. He's unhinged. This isn't how civilized people behave. Civilized? You mean the ones who fed on my silence? The ones who stabbed with their tongues and smiled with their teeth? Let me teach you something. Civilized is just a prettier word for compliant. And I refused to kneel. I followed your rules. I played your game. And you moved the goalposts every time I got close. So I stopped playing. I flipped the board, broke the pieces, and rewrote the game in a language you can't even pronounce. You want balance? You had it. You want peace? You ignored it. You want mercy? You taught me none. And now that I've taken back everything you thought I'd never touch, now that you see me walking through your front door carrying all the power you swore I'd never hold, now you scream foul. Now I'm the villain. No, I'm just the mirror. I'm the consequence you prayed would never arrive. You called me unstable, but I was stable enough to dismantle everything you built. You called me angry. You're damn right, but don't confuse rage with recklessness. This was precise, calculated. I didn't snap, I evolved. You want to pretend this is about justice? Then tell me, where was your justice when they laughed? Where was your outrage when I was bleeding under their silence? You didn't want justice. You wanted obedience. And now that I've outgrown your leash, you label me a threat, but I didn't change the rules. You did. You taught me that pain is power, that silence is strategy, that if you want to survive in this world, you can't. Ask you take, so don't cry now, don't mourn what you molded. You wrote the rules in blood. I just learned how to read. They want to paint me as a monster, but monsters don't beg. They endure, they adapt. And when they rise and they don't ask for applause, they take the stage and burn it down. So go ahead. Call it unfair. Call it excessive. Call it whatever helps you sleep in that glass house you built from my ashes. But understand this. I didn't come to settle scores. I came to break the scale. I didn't come to win. I came to end the illusion that I was ever meant to lose. Now, they want justice. Now they want peace. Now they want mercy. But only because it's their turn to kneel, and the floor is colder than they expected. Let them cry. Let them curse. Let them call me everything they need to hide from the truth. That I didn't just rise, I reversed the gravity. And now, they're the ones choking on their own silence. Unfair? No, this is balance. This is karma. This is history, remembering the ones who dared to get back up and took everything. Let them hate. Let them fear. Let them fall. Because I already did. And I learned something at the bottom. It's quieter when they stop laughing and louder. When you make them listen. Arrest me? Now you want to arrest me? Now that I don't kneel? Now that I don't beg? Now that your leash won't fit around my throat? Now I'm dangerous? No. I was dangerous the day you decided to ignore me. The day you turned your back and told the world I didn't matter. You don't want justice. You want containment. You want to box up what you can't control because the fire finally reached your doorstep. You call me the villain. I'm not the villain. I'm the result. I am what happens when silence gets too loud, when pain grows teeth, when the abandoned child stops crying and starts sharpening knives. You broke me, you mocked me, you threw me into the dark and pretended I never existed. And now you fear the weapon you forged in the basement of your indifference. Funny how you want to label it criminal when it no longer serves you. Funny how fast you build laws when someone else starts playing your game better than you. They say I crossed a line. No, I erased it, because it was never a line. It was a cage, drawn in chalk by cowards. And when I stepped over it, you gasped, you screamed, you called for backup. But where was your law when they broke me? Where was your justice when I was the one bleeding? You want me in cuffs now? You had your chance. You could have stopped me before the silence took root, before the storm learned my name, before I became the thing your nightmares whisper about, but you didn't. You watched, you waited, you let me rot until rot became armor. And now you want control. You made me, you hid me, you unleashed me, so don't cry, wolf. You raised the beast. You fed it lies, you taught it how to crawl, then acted surprised when it learned how to run. Now you want to put chains on what you bred in the shadows. You want to contain the explosion you lit. You want to throw rules at something you created outside of rules. You don't get to be afraid now. Not after what you did. Not after what you let happen. You built this. You built me, brick by betrayal, stone by silence, layer by layer until I was unrecognizable, even to myself. But you didn't care. You thought I'd stay broken. You thought I'd stay quiet. And now that I'm louder than your lies, now that I walk taller than your towers, you call for my arrest. Let me ask you this. What cell could hold me now? What law could bind what your injustice unchained? I'm not just beyond the law, I am the answer to it. The final verdict, the closing argument, the sentence you never saw coming. You think I want to escape? No. I want you to look me in the eyes and realize this is what your system gave birth to. A creature carved from everything you failed to fix. A mirror you can't break. A fire you can't smother. So go ahead. Arrest me. Try. But remember, you raised your executioner. You gave me the blade. You handed me the mask and you watched as I became everything you now fear. Don't cry for peace. You bred war. Don't beg for mercy. You taught me vengeance. Don't act surprised. This was always coming. You just didn't expect it to wear a smile. Let them come. Let them try. Let them bring the whole weight of the law. I won't run because I'm not afraid of your justice. I am what it forgot. I am what it denied. I am the verdict that never got read. So come, arrest me, but never forget. You built the cell I was born in, and I turned it into a throne. You think this was about winning? You think I crawled through fire, bled beneath your boots, swallowed shame and spit and silence, just to hear you say I made it? No, this was never about your applause. I wasn't built for trophies. I wasn't molded to fit your standards, your charts, your safe little victories. I was never meant to win. I was meant to end this. Let that sink in. You all lined up to see me fall, put bets on my ruin, clapped while I crumbled, cheered while I broke. But here's the part you never understood. Some of us don't rise to be crowned. Some of us rise to burn it all down, because there's something deeper than revenge, something sharper than rage. It's called clarity, and clarity is terrifying. It shows you who built the cage, who handed you the chains, who smiled while they tightened them. And once you see that, once you really see that, you don't ask for justice, you become it. I didn't win, I transformed. I didn't break through the walls. I dissolved the concept of walls entirely. I became the consequence, the end of mercy, the echo of truth. I was the silence before the scream, the pause before the collapse, the chill before the avalanche breaks loose. You thought survival was my goal. No. Survival was just the beginning. You all watched me drown. You turned your backs while I sunk into the black. And when I rose dripping in rage carved from every betrayal, you called it unfair, you called it too much. But I wasn't supposed to survive. That was your first mistake. You made plans for a dead man, not a god reborn in defiance. You feared monsters. So I became the legend. Now I speak not for forgiveness, not for sympathy. Not for your trembling little systems of order. I speak as the final page, the last word, the red line across your perfect little ending. This wasn't a win, this was a warning. To anyone who thinks the quiet ones are weak, to anyone who thinks silence means surrender, to anyone who dares to bury fire and walk away thinking, it's done, let me say this clearly. You cannot cage what has become chaos. You cannot kill what's already been reborn. You cannot arrest a reckoning. I wasn't the villain, I was your reflection, just sharper, angrier, unforgiving. I didn't come back to fit in. I came back to erase everything that broke me. This is the legacy you never wanted to birth. I am the story whispered in fear, the myth they deny until it arrives at their doorstep, the beast they created, then ran from when it roared. Look at me now. Do you see a man? No, you see what happens when pain gets tired of being polite. You see what happens when the underdog stops playing by the rules. I am not here to be loved. I'm not here to be understood. I'm not here to make peace. I'm here to finish what you started. I am the smoke that chokes the sky, the step that shakes the earth, the breath before the storm screams. You feared what I could become, and now you kneel before what I did. This is your reckoning, your repayment, your return to balance. And me? I don't want your crown. I want thee, throne to vanish. I want the memory of my name to echo like thunder. I want the world to whisper, he didn't win. He rewrote the ending because I wasn't meant to win. I was meant to end this.